World Magazine's interactive session on eco-friendly HVAC, a reality check. Energy conservation is an integral to commercial facility operations through effective operation and maintenance. Managing the HVAC system ensures optimal performance and lower energy consumption. The temperature of the environment in which the HVAC system is placed can be manipulated according to the user's need. And so, HVAC systems and utilities must be managed efficiently, such as by configuring settings and preventing speed from reducing the current energy consumption. The HVAC industry is in the midst of a growth spurt. HVAC systems market size will be worth $328.26 billion by 2030 at a 6.6% CAGR. Increasing demand for energy-efficient HVAC systems, the growing trend of smart homes, and government initiatives coupled with rising investments need energy-efficient technologies. Energy efficiency is one of the most important goals. Electrification and decarbonization are taking the lead. Emerging trends indicate energy efficiency is at the center of the next level of innovation. With the help of customized energy efficiency solutions, cost savings can be realized as innovative technology is in demand. On this note, Thermal Control Business Update will be hosting a roundtable conference on eco-friendly HVAC, a reality check. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor and a privilege to introduce you to today's distinguished speakers, Mr. Anish Kadyan, Senior Executive Director and Head of Operations, Property Management at CBRA South Asia Private Limited, Mr. Ashish Rakheja, Managing Partner at Aeon Consultants, Ms. Preeti Ramamurthy, Director HVAC Systems Private Limited, and Mr. Bhavesh Mehta, DGM Reliance Retail Limited. I would like to invite our guest speakers to join us for today's panel discussion on eco-friendly HVAC, a reality check. I also invite Mr. Gopal Anand to join us for this session.
Thank you, Rajesh. Ms. Preeti, you were talking about newer technologies, the designing part and sustainability concepts. You also touched upon the topic of equipment selections for projects and maintenance. So from your point of view, what future energy efficient technologies are available for integrated HVAC systems in pharma and hospitality industry, the biggest consumers of electricity, providing 24/7.
So one of the main concerns when it comes to our pharma and hospitality projects is space constraints. They have huge campuses, yes. Like when we talk about energy efficiency part of it, we have a lot of solutions in terms of solar energy consumption. It's not just aimed towards HVAC, it would also support their entire facility, right? Now, there is a huge cost incurrence in the initial stages of the project. So that I feel as HVAC industry, we face a huge challenge. My fellow panelists just mentioned, the cost incurrence versus the capex and opex calculation is something that a lot of the industries are willing to look forward to today. This was not something that was receptive a couple of years back, or I could even say yesterday. So they are looking at the investment part of it today and the return part of it. Now, when we talk about just HVAC in particular, our major energy consumption is one of the major energy consumption is by the solution that we install. Now, when it comes to that aspect, now, yes, we have solutions with VFD drives, with EC fans, with all the new technology, but the primary source of energy, that I feel personally is something that we need to educate and kind of put forward towards our clients, which kind of moves us all a step closer towards the green building or a sustainable solution for our clients.
Thank you, Ms. Preeti, for enlightening about those aspects. Of course, solar energy is also part that plays for the conservation of energies in the bigger industries and bigger places. Mr. Ashish, you are talking about the design efficiency part, about green building movement and green refrigerants. So my question to you is, The use of HVAC system with IoT capability approach is growing for applications in smart buildings. For conserving energy, are energy efficiency ratings an indication to use HVAC system more efficiently?
In the last, I had shown a slide in which I had said that the rating systems are moving towards net zero approach. If you look at the current rating systems which are there, they talk about net zero energy, net zero water, net zero waste, net zero carbon ultimately. All of them are performance based. You cannot achieve a net zero status until unless you show it in the performance. The last 2 decades about the green building movement and the green rating systems per se have been all about design. That means we designed the best and then we left it in the hands of the operators. They have their own challenges. Did it achieve its purpose? Did not achieve its purpose? A lot was left between the design and the operation. There was a big gap which got left behind. There has been a lot of criticism also that the green buildings do not perform at the end of it. Some of the green buildings have not performed. Why? Because a well-designed building, if it is operated poorly, does not yield you the result. Whereas the vice versa, a poorly designed building, well operated, also does not give you the result. It has to be both. And that is where you can see the rating systems, they are transforming from being design based now to a performance based. You get your net zero rating after you do 1 year of operation and demonstrate that what you designed has been achieved or not been achieved. So the IoTs, artificial intelligence, they're all driving towards making system accountable towards what has been the design intent been. And this is what the shift you will see in next decade of the movement or the construction industry that you'll have. There'll be complete shift towards accountable buildings. Even in the government sector where the focus is on the EPC, where the EPC is all about design, build and leave it there. Operation is again Anish's problem, or people like Anish who are there, they're their problem. When whether it achieves its purpose, nobody knows about it. That model will shift to design, build, operate and then transfer, not the infrastructure projects alone, but also the buildings. And that is where everybody will be hand in hand, and that's where the rating systems are now evolving to.
Thank you, Mr. Ashish. Yes, rating system is a very vital thing in the whole scheme of things for HVAC, energy efficiency now. Mr. Anish, what are your views about this? Would you like to add?
We all, when we are buying a vehicle, whether it's a two-wheeler or a car, there's a very famous Indian ad as well. How much mileage does this machine give? And what mileage is advertised versus what mileage we get actually when we drive it is a big difference. And I think that's a very apt analogy to show where the design is and what is really happening on the ground. But these rating, I would say the whole ecosystem of rating has really transformed the way manufacturers, I think, are looking at this whole aspect, and also it's made a lot of awareness about in the eyes of the consumers. So even when we are buying our own equipments at home, air conditioners, the B star rating system has really transformed that, and it's really, I think, at least personally, that's what I've seen, that now there is an awareness that people want to go in for more efficient systems. So definitely a rating system as a start, maybe just for the equipments which are there in the whole HVAC ecosystem. Maybe it could be just the fans, it could be the AHUs themselves, the chillers. There is, I think, Ashish, if I'm not mistaken, there is a study going on to make a rating system for chillers as well, if I'm not mistaken. So that will definitely help. That, I think, will be a stepping stone to make a rating system for the whole integrated system, which is not easy. But ultimately, that's where I think we'll go. And the technology with all the sensors which are now available at a lower cost, higher reliability, will help us, I think, have an integrated rating approach for the whole building, which I think is the ultimate dream for all of us, especially in the maintenance side. That'll be a big help.
Yeah, that's very nice, Mr. Anish. Let that dream of integration of IoT must come true in the not so distant future. And my another query to you is, with increasing industrialization, residential and public spaces call for energy efficient applications. So how the HVAC market is responding to this market trend?
So yeah, I think public spaces, be it airports, metro stations, bus stands now are getting air conditioned. So the demand will definitely increase exponentially, because right now it was only limited to buildings or maybe industrial sheds or something like that. So this current approach may not be, especially in our kind of environment where there's large variation in temperature, this current approach may not really work. Right now there's nothing else, but Ashish shared a very interesting use case of using natural ventilation rather than going in for forced or mechanical ventilation. And there are already many use cases like this. There is a university out of Gurgaon. They have totally, they've not used any artificial ventilation systems in that, and it is working fine. Students are studying and they're passing out with good grades, I suppose. So I think that the whole mindset change will have to happen. Earlier, 20 degrees was what everybody thought is the right temperature. It's gone to 22. Now you see a lot of products, especially I think it's mandated maybe, but 24 degrees is the desired temperature setting. So I have a feeling, my personal thought is, for public spaces and even for office spaces, there will be a shift towards natural ventilation wherever possible, and maybe low cost, higher efficiency systems that, because otherwise there's no way to cater for this large thing without guzzling so much of energy, and energy is of course at a premium and it affects the environment. So it's all linked together.
I think I'll just add to what Anish said, and he has very beautifully brought out the fact that the air conditioning is all over everywhere. But I think we need to replace this word air conditioning with thermal comfort. It is not about air conditioning, and air conditioning somehow has gone into our mind. Actually, if you look at the word air conditioning, it doesn't say cooling, it doesn't say heating, it is conditioning the air. And it has gone into our mind as a guzzling, low temperature application. Somehow that's what the Indians would like to believe. I think let's get out of the fact and say thermal comfort building. And the thermal comfort is at 27 degrees also there's a thermal comfort. My own office is a living example. I have 27 degrees with a fan running, and I've got half the energy of what other offices consume. So thermal comfort is what is going to be the game going forward. And let's leave the word air conditioning behind. Air conditioning could be to equipment rooms. Air conditioning could be to data centers. Like, the traditional concept of air conditioning. But when it comes to human, let's talk about thermal comfort. And that's where the game changer would be.
Yeah, that's quite
right.
Mr.
I would like to share, Mr. Gopal, with your permission.
Sure,
what Mr. Ashish said, it is absolutely right. Even in our own premises at Reliance Corporate Park, we operate at 750 square feet per ton. Okay, I think Mr. Ashish has visited our premises and have a lot of discussion with our engineering team members, and also he will agree with me that the operational system, HVAC system, operates at 750 square feet per ton. Okay, you install the machine as per the required capacity based on the peak condition of Mumbai, but this is the way how we operate and we maintain. I also wanted to talk about, when you talk about the operational efficiency, your lighting should be monitored through BMS. You have a LED fixtures. You can realign. See, now in Mumbai, in our areas, we have a dual tariff system in the Maharashtra Electricity Board. So what you can do, some application which may not require to operate during daytime, like to make up the water in the cooling tower, make up the water in the overhead tank, that you can do during the night time where the tariff is low. You have 1 rupees discount per unit for night operation if you consume the power during night time. So you can realign the working hours of housekeeping staff, especially to reduce the operating cost by way of because the huge amount of water required to for the makeup water of cooling tower, or maybe the drinking water or the potable water, etc. Even you can have a sensor operated motion sensor for the lighting automation. VFD based kitchen ventilation also, VFD based are available. Automation, even car parking, you can have automation system. So there are lots of things which you can do during your operation. And I'm sure Mr. Anish will agree with that. If you have a better operation with the proper trainee person, you can definitely reduce your ultimate kilowatt per ton, cost kilowatt per ton, or maybe the operating cost. This is what I would like to share to the panel, to the team delegates and the team members. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bhavesh, for adding to the points. Ms. Preeti, coming back to you, whether refrigerants play a major role for optimizing energy efficiency in HVAC systems?
refrigerants do play a role, sir. I wouldn't say a major role, but they definitely play a role. Like our older systems where we had R22, there was a lot of carbon emissions that did contribute to a lot of unfortunate global warming aspects as such. But now we have moved towards, we have R410A, we have R407C, and so on and so forth. That actually do not emit as much of carbon as the older refrigerant that was available. And when we come to our chillers, yes, now in the current or the present, we have 404A gas, which is brilliant when it comes to the chiller operations. So we have a couple of clients who have, maybe the system was installed 20 years back. We've been in business for about 29 years. We've had certain clients who've been with us for, a good 20, 25 years. We ourselves have installed these systems with R32. But now we have educated them and, we have done the retrofit jobs of converting these R32 refrigerant systems to the other refrigerants that's available. These are, so R32 was claimable, so we have reduced the risk factor, we've reduced the carbon emissions and so on and so forth. So yes, definitely, refrigerants do play a role.
Yeah, definitely, they play a role. So, Mr. Anish, water is getting scarce. HVAC industry would also get stressed out. Both are interlinked if you consider the electricity uses. So what measurement technologies are going to evolve in the future?
There are definitely linked, especially of course, majority of the installations are water-cooled chillers, and they are, if you see the overall scheme of things, more efficient. The water requirements are getting, I would say, leaner. And if you see now modern buildings, they all have treatment plants which recycle water, so that basically they're going towards the net zero emissions for the whole building. So there's a lot of focus now on reusing water, and of course that reused water goes into the air conditioning systems after treatments. So I have a feeling, my personal thought in terms of about water and its relevance in HVAC will still be there, while places with water scarcity will go on to air-cooled chillers. But where water is relatively not so difficult, but it is a scarce commodity everywhere, they will be there, but there will be systems in place which will help reduce the water. So right now, maybe about 10 years back, it was very common for the plant maintenance people to drain the whole chilled water line if there was a problem, or to annually do a drain the lines and then flush it out and all. Now they've become more aware about the need for conserving water. So they have now started using additives and maintaining the water quality. The kind of pipelines that are initially installed, they are being used so that there's less of scaling, there's less of contamination of the water when maybe the pipelines are 10 years old. So now there is a larger awareness of the importance and the scarcity of water, which I think is being in conserving water, and by reusing water as much as possible. That also I think keeps the ecosystem sustainable as of now. But yeah, I don't think the water-cooled chillers are going anywhere. They will be there, but they'll be more efficient, so less water usage.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Anish. Conservation word is getting addicted now to each and every industry. Mr. Bhavesh, coming to you, what HVAC control market growth is driven by development of green technology?
See, earlier, if you see the 20 years down the line, we have all the reciprocating chillers. Okay, so we used to have a separate expansion valve or a dryer or a PCB out, etc. Now it is thermal expansion valve converted into the electronic expansion valve, which has got a better control on a refrigerant flow. Similarly, PCB, now the loading and unloading of the compressors. I know in earlier days when we used the reciprocating compressors, we used to have the separate unloading solenoid valve. Okay, USVs are there. But now all the loading, unloading of the systems are also going automatically based on the suction temperature, suction pressure, or maybe if you go for the AHU, based on the return rate temperature, the water flow is controlled. So I agree with you. The development in the control systems from the earlier mechanical to the electronic system will definitely improve the performance of the machine. And of course, even you can optimize the capacity of the machine, because earlier, maybe if you see the heat load, which we used to calculate manually, it was 10%, 15% safety factor we used to that. But nowadays, even in spite you take the same safety factor, you will have a better operating cost by way of a controlling flow of refrigerant or a flow of water, condenser flow of chill water, or maybe airflow by way of keeping controls on the air side. So definitely it is going to be always improved and market will be definitely grow, and different players are there. Earlier, the players also are very maybe peanuts, but now a lot of the companies who make the electronic controls and all, they are also very consistent. Let me use the word called consistent. So the future is very bright, and I'm very optimistic with the latest technology which are going to come for the HVAC controls.
Thank you, Mr. Bhavesh, for enlightening the facts about it. Mr. Ashish, coming to you lastly, what are the new design trends evolving for energy efficient solutions?
So, my entire presentation spoke about the concept about interrelated aspects of the design. So far, like you asked a question from Anish about the water efficiency and relationship between HVAC and water. Now, when I'm designing a new HVAC system, I have to look into its impact, consequences onto the other systems alone. Also, let me elaborate on that. Doing a design which is let's say if I'm act like an HVAC designer and just think about designing my system as the best, that will not be the best for the building because there are other systems impacted by it. To give you a very simple example, there is a township project we are currently working on, and it's a combination of residential and a commercial, large residential and lesser commercial. And to our surprise, we found that we have net zero water design aspirations where we are able to save a lot of water using rainwater harvesting techniques and all. We are aiming for that. But at the end of the day, from a sewage treatment plant, there's a 27 lakh liters of water which is coming out and going into the municipal drain. Now, is that what I'm looking at? My HVAC system is optimized. I have designed the best system, but who's going to worry about the 27 lakh liter water which is coming out and going into the city drain? What is the impact of it on energy, and how can the HVAC system step up to use that? So there are interrelationships that we need to see in the design. I think this is where the whole concept is coming. One I talked about the concept of the thermal comfort. Gone are the days of low temperature air conditioning. The days are of thermal comfort. The second is about interrelationships. One should not be looking at the own system design. Just selecting the best efficiency equipment is not going to give you the right solution. You need to look at it. You could be selecting a not so optimum equipment efficiency, but in an overall concept, it gives you a better performance. Maybe that is a better way to look at it. The digital twins are coming into the picture. That means you validate the concept of whatever you're thinking using simulation tools before you actually go for the execution. Building information modeling is coming into a big manner where you are able to do it right the first time. Because if you have to look at the low carbon solutions, you have to get it right the first time itself. What Bhavesh spoke about, the sourcing of the materials is coming to the picture. Is not about HVAC design alone. Is you have to look at the whole concept. HVAC engineers who step up and look at the whole concept. So you have to now look at even the sourcing of the material, where it is coming from, what is the carbon footprint, what is the cradle to cradle concept on which it is going to work on. All of these are a problem or a challenge to the HVAC designer. And let's not forget the fact indoor environmental quality is also is coming forward as one of the big areas of concern. Who are you making the buildings for? You have the best designed building, most efficient building, but the people inside are not happy. That means the indoor environment is not right. Again, you lost the battle. You've not achieved the right purpose. So the indoor environmental quality is also coming into the picture. So buildings have to be, or HVAC systems have to be designed looking at the global context, not only as a self context. And mind it, we remain the largest energy consumer. We remain the one which affect the human comfort the maximum, as well as the productivity the maximum, as well as the safety of the people the maximum. So the HVAC system roles are becoming bigger, and you can see it in the form of the role which the HVAC designers or the HVAC operators are playing today, or even the HVAC societies are playing today in terms of integrating the various other disciplines into them. So that's the evolution that we are going to see in the HVAC industry.
That's very great, Mr. Ashish. Because everywhere the technology is changing, we have to change accordingly with the systems. And one of them, Mr. Dinesh Yadav, is asking, how efficient is IoT-capable options, replacing traditional building automation systems, that is BAS. So it's an open question.
I can just add something, and then from an operations point of view, Ashish, and then we can talk from a design point of view. So IoT, of course, is a game changer. It has the potential to revolutionize. You can retrofit existing legacy systems with the sensors which are connected to the cloud. You have data every second or even milliseconds. So I think the range and the utility of IoTs is immense. But the problem, I think, lies is in the actual usage of that. Currently, any new building which is built, in the design has this wonderful BMS, building management system, or IBMS, whatever they call it. But the ground reality is that except for the chiller, and that's only the main chiller because the control systems come from the OEMs, the majority of the BMS components are not working at the start of the building's life. If they are working, within a year, they about 40-50% only remain working. Two reasons. One is the reliability of those systems in our kind of environments. Second is the knowledge of the people to use them. And then third, I think just the reliance on manual recording and manual operating is so high in India because we have manpower. So it doesn't matter if the BMS system is not working, it's okay. So same thing will apply for IoT. I think it can really transform the way we are managing buildings. This digital twin concept that Ashish was saying, there will be an operational digital twin, but ultimately we as users and maintainers and of course the designers have to see that the systems are such that we plan the right from design stage to operation stage, they should be built around the IoT, not just as an add-on.
Thank you, Mr. Anish.
Right, I'll just add to that. Look, the IoT is the way to go. If we have to optimize the operations, the machine and the machine learning have to come into the picture because there is a limit to what a human operations can do in a growing complexity of the buildings. As the interrelationships I spoke about, the interrelationships can either be handled by a very, very experienced operator, which may not be many of them, or by systems which are able to judge and work on the subroutines that are fed there. I fully agree with Anish, and which is what I wrote in my response also to the person who had raised the question. The capability to execution remains, and even if it executed rightly, maintaining it over a lifespan remains a question. And I'm one of the biggest person who's been going around and saying that, look, systems do not work the way they're intended to. And that's where the whole challenge lies. But that doesn't mean we should not do it, because these are all evolution aspects. I'm sure we'll be better at it, but that's the way to go.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ashish. Would you like to add, Preeti?
Sir, I would just like to say that, so the panelists today, like I'm a service provider, we have someone who takes care of, the maintenance. We have from a client side and from a consultant's perspective. So all of us come together with data points. It's as simple as that. So this data point is collated for us and given to us, like Ashish sir rightly said. Humans are bound to make mistakes irrespective of the experience or whatever. So this IoT is something that keeps us all educated, aware, and ready to take on whatever we could anticipate. So yes, that's definitely the future that we are leaning towards.
Yeah, that's
Having said that, I was speaking about that today. So far, we are focused on equipment efficiencies and system efficiencies at individual level. But that's where the whole game changes now, because all of them are interrelated, and that's where the HVAC systems need to evolve at this point of time. We need to go beyond what we are currently doing. We have to look at the new systems and the new approach altogether. Things like Anish already spoke about, things like magnetic bearing chillers coming into the picture. I would even go and challenge the concept of the way we are doing the air conditioning. The whole concept has been so far about keeping the buildings closed. The newer concepts are keeping the building open. India gets a fair weather. In fact, we get a good weather for more than 6 months in every city of India practically. Why is it that we are not able to use those systems? Mixed mode ventilation systems using HVLS fan, or even going as far as double stage evaporative cooling, triple stage evaporative cooling are being talked about. The concepts are about validating your system designs and looking at the operational efficiency also, which is about our digital twinning of the building. There is an energy water nexus, because when we talk about HVAC system, there is a water which is linked to that, water consumption linked to it. As the water becomes more and more scarce commodity, energy also has to be looked at. So there is an energy-water nexus which is appearing there, which is emerging as an area of concern, and that's what the HVAC systems need to look at. Water, when it becomes scarce, will become metered, and the HVAC systems will be under pressure on how much water is being used by them going forward. There is a measurement of the measurement focus which is coming in. Everything that you consume needs to be measured, and that's where again the air conditioning systems will have to look at how much, where they're impacting on energy, on water, and the measurements will come in. There is an artificial intelligence being talked about, there's IoT being talked about. And finally, moving on to what we say, the performance-based systems. That means looking at the building performance. There are metrics now emerging there, which define what your building performance should be like. There are building labeling programs, which are primarily driven through the consumption of the energy, but primarily being through what is being consumed by the HVAC systems alone. ISHRE 2, the society that Anish and myself are part of, has launched into its own building energy performance standards called IBEEPS, and that also is talking about how the HVAC system and the interrelationship with the other systems is there on the energy efficiency. We move towards the net zero energy, and 2 talks about optimizing and interrelationship between the other subsystems as well as the HVAC systems which is there. And last but not the least comes the picture of carbon, and that's where again the 40% of the global carbon emissions are linked to the building which is there. And again, the HVAC systems will not only look at what is done at the construction stage, operational stage, but also at the demolition stage. The trends in sustainability are all about now performance, whether it's net zero energy, net zero water, net zero waste, net zero carbon, or resilience. Everything is about performance, and that is what will cover the concern which Anish had raised, that the designers like us come and design the system and go away not worrying about the performance. And that is where I say the whole concept is about not how we design the buildings, but how we design and operate our buildings. And that's how our HVAC systems, our HVAC system solutions, everything will need to emerge. Thank you.
It's quite nice. And we had a very wonderful session. I would request Mr. Anish Kadian to give a closing statement for this.
My closing statement, I think for all the panelists who are there, of course, they're all experts, and it's great to hear your thoughts and always learn something. My closing, I would say, advice or suggestions to all the participants who are here, and hopefully there'll be some who are manufacturers, some who are customers, some who are people who are operating HVAC systems. Just one word, that this is the time to act. We are in a very, very precarious situation in terms of global warming. It's real. It's not just something which is there in the newspapers. And this HVAC industry has a huge potential. The building sector in general, and HVAC sector in particular, has a huge role to play. First of all, we've contributed to it, but now we can really make a difference. So we're all HVAC professionals. Let's try and do our bit. And anybody who talks about the ROIs and the costs about it, at least when I meet customers and I talk about retrofits or I talk about energy efficiency systems being positioned there, and they talk that's very expensive, I tell them that the time for ROI is over now. If we have to have a good future for our children and their children, this is not the time to think about money, the time to act. So that's what I would say. And it's a great, I would say, session that you all done about eco-friendly HVAC systems. We really need to do a reality check and make sure that they remain eco-friendly.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful, Mr. Anish and all the panelists. We are reaching the end of the session, and I would request Ms. Rajeshwari to close the session, please.
Thank you, panelists, for exchanging your valuable thoughts on today's eco-friendly HVAC, a reality check. We hope you enjoyed the session thoroughly. Before wrapping up today's session, we thank our distinguished panelists, Mr. Anish, Mr. Ashish, Ms. Preeti, and Mr. Bhavesh. I would also like to thank Mr. Gopal Anand and Mr. Prasad Nair for taking up this initiative. We want our delegates and our viewers to stay connected with us on our social media handles. Thermal Control Magazine is available on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also download our app from Google Play and App Store. So with this, we would like to announce the closing of today's session. Request to stay tuned for more such sessions. Thank you and goodbye.